Greetings, everyone. Dr. Annette West, Publishing Pusher here. Thanks for joining me in the JetNay Publishing, talking all things book. Yes, the operative words, all things. I'm excited you're here. You listen in, share your thoughts. You don't have to be live on the screen to be able to talk. And I want you to know your success is my business. I'm here to assist you, support, empower, inspire as we pull out those thoughts to get these books accomplished. Thanks again for joining me.
Hi, everyone. So let us go ahead and get started. This is a Q&A. So this is talking all things books. So if someone comes in, they come in. If they don't, they don't. Well, I'll be here for 45 minutes and we will see how things go. Now, I don't know. Maybe you are already a book author. Maybe you're not and you're thinking about it. My company, JetNay Publishing, the goal is to make those that I connect with, fishermen and fisherwomen. What do I mean? I can create the books for people, not a problem. But I want to encourage and empower people who maybe didn't know they could do it, thought about it, wasn't sure. I want to help them to become a book author and to be able to self-publish. So I put a lot of emphasis on self-publishing. Nothing wrong with traditional publishing, nothing wrong with getting someone else to do your book for you, because I do books for people as well. But I believe that many times we haven't done certain things because we just didn't know that we could. Before I wrote my first book in 2006, I didn't know that I could write a book, hadn't even thought about it really. But being pressed and encouraged by others pushed me into this realm. When I first started out, I mentioned before, there wasn't a lot of resources available. But I did the best I could with what I had, and I created my first book, which is this right here. This was my first, this is what my first book looked like, y'all. And this was what my first book looked like. Now, it doesn't really look like much of anything, okay? Living Words of Encouragement, Volume 1, with the Bible on the front saying, keeping it simple is real. This was the first book that I self-published. I did the cover myself, you could tell. I did the content in the interior myself. I think I did pretty good. Later, I found out I could have done better, but this was my first book. This was my biggest selling book, y'all. Think about that. This was my biggest selling book. Yes. And you'd be like, huh? Well, in that particular season, I had a lot of platforms that I was on. I was a part of the military women's ministry, Protestant Women of the Chapel. You know, that encompasses all the military bases. And so I have had the ability to speak on local, regional, and international platforms with them. I was a part of the Baptist Association. So therefore, I was able to be connected to local, regional, and international platforms as well. So when you already start your work and you have platforms, it gives you an edge that maybe other people don't have. This little book right here, in about 24 months, sold 8,000 copies. But that was because I was going places where there was hundreds of people every time I was going there to speak. So a lot of people were purchasing it. And I've been really blessed that most of my family members bought the book. They were excited. First of all, we didn't have anybody else in our family that we knew that had written a book. So I was like, oh my God, we got a family member that wrote a book. Not did she just finish her doctorate, but she wrote a book also, and a faith-based book at that. So this is what my first book looked like. Now, 10 years later, this is the cover. This started with this. This is the revised cover of the book. So now there's a volume 1 and a volume 2 of this. So for my 10-year anniversary, I did a second volume, and then I revamped the first volume. And what I want to tell you is it's okay to go back and pick up your resource and rebuild, revise, maybe even create it as a new book with a new ISBN, depending on how much content you're adjusting in it. So that's what I did with this. So this was my second book. I wrote one in 2006. I published this one in 2016. Now, you're probably wondering, what was she doing between 2006 and 2016, January 2016? Remember I talked about coaching people? So when I finished my first book, people started reaching out to me saying, I might want to do something like that. Can you help me? So people started paying me to help them become self-publishers. Listen, y'all, I only had what I used in my process. So that's where I started. But guess what it was? It was more than they had in the process. So as I was working with them to create their content and move through the process, when I knew I was coming up against something that I needed some more insight, I go research it, right? Because look, y'all, it's 10, 11, 12 years later, and there's a lot more resources. We have the internet, we have YouTube, we have a lot of great places that we can go and get content. So I start being ahead of them to get the next piece of content or two that they're going to need as they come along. So for 10 years, I got really proficient, an expert in helping people to self-publish. And then in 2016, when I wrote this, when I revised the first edition and I did the second one, I just had this burning desire and urge to, now it's time to do some more, to do something more. So from 2016, in 2017, I wrote a book, Jesus, The Path to Victorious Living. In 2018, I wrote the book, 23 Days in the Book of Isaiah. In 2019, I wrote the book, Holistic Wellness, Mind, Body, Spirit. In 2020, I wrote the book, Centered in Christ, a collaboration. In 2021, I wrote the book, Centered in Christ, which began the Centered in Christ series, volume 1. That same year, I did a collaboration called, let me see. Here we go. Marriage Connection, Making It Work. Marriage Connection. And I believe I had 9 authors in this particular book. And they, along with their spouse, because they couldn't share the content unless they had corresponded with their spouse, what they were going to share. And then as a couple, their names are in this book. So these were 2 that I did in 2021. 2022, it was volume 2 of Centered in Christ. 2023, it was volume 3 of Centered in Christ. 2024, volume 4 will be available in time for Mother's Day. In that process, I have also engaged with others on their platforms, asking them questions, helping them to build, but also working in other people's collaborations. So I have like 20 books with my name on it or in it, which is a good thing. And then I've helped many others to create their books as well. So many great things. Here's one. Wait. Trust God's timing for a mate. Janice Rock. I'm just showing you some books. Here's a couple of collaborations that I've been in with the Morning Joy group, and the visionary and anthology author is the Ultimate Joy Coach, Nicole Carter, out of North Carolina. There's 3 of these. I don't have the first one with me, but there's 3 of them, and I am in all 3 of them. So what it does is the more pieces that you are able to pull, the more you are able to do. The more you are able to do. This is the front of the Jesus, the Pathway to Victorious Living, one of my books. I guess I should have grabbed them all. This is the 3rd volume of Centered in Christ, Lift Him Up. So I have quite a few books and books that I've worked for others. I have The Fear to Persevere that came out last fall by Albert Grieve. So if you have going maybe through some mental health issues or some abuse issues, or you are an expert in your field and you want to gain some insight and examples that you can share in what you are preparing and presenting, his book is a great resource. So I have lots of content that I am just thankful that God has put into my hands. And so what if